Welcome to the Big Tech Gut Check here on Scrolling to Death. This is a weekly update for parents on all things big tech and social media. Before I get into the headlines for the week of August 19th, 2024, I wanted to thank this week's sponsor, Bark Technologies. I am truly so grateful that these days we parents have a safer device option for our children. That is the Bark phone, which was built for families who are looking to ramp up their child's online safety. It has the parental controls built in, unlike the iPhone, and allows us to manage their entire digital experience super safely. More on Bark in the episode notes, but let's get into this week's updates. First up, we're going to talk about Snapchat. This week, a media outlet called TechGenYZ put out an article titled, "What Snapchat Isn't Telling You, the Dark Side of Snapchat." This is similar to my recent episode titled "Snap is a Scam," but let me share the highlights. Since Snapchat still has 375 million daily active users, and parents continue to give in to one of the most harmful platforms on the planet. Snapchat seems innocent and fun, but there are huge concerns that Snap is actually really good at hiding. For example, we think that snaps are private. They vanish into thin air, but that is not true. A lawsuit filed in 2022 showed that Snapchat violated the Biometric Information Privacy Act, collecting and storing users' biometric data without our consent. Snap paid a $35 million settlement to keep this quiet and make it go away, but what was made clear is that our snaps do not in fact disappear. And if you are using SnapMap, Snapchat's geolocator, they know where you are. They know where you go, your every move, and they're literally tracking the movements of millions of children. That's creepy and wrong. The privacy features that Snap touts are actually being used by predators to exploit children and teens. Like, a lot of children are being exploited. Every week, there are many new cases of adults convincing kids to send explicit messages through Snapchat. And last year, Snapchat rolled out My AI, a chatbot that ended up lying to users and sharing dangerous information to minors. And CNN recently reported that users can't delete My AI from their feeds, that they have to pay a premium fee to do so. And we cannot forget about Snapchat's role in driving the opioid crisis. Fentanyl is killing 22 children every week. Most of this fentanyl is being found in fake pills, and most of those pills are being sold on Snapchat. Snapchat works really hard to put out PR campaigns and stats to tell us that they're good for kids. Their latest ploy was just released on August 19th, and the title of the news update is "New Research Reveals Communicating Online with Friends Brings Australians Happiness." Snapchat has been leaning into a narrative that they are a messaging platform, that they are not social media. Even though Snapchat meets the exact definition of a social media platform, which is an interactive technology that facilitates the creation, sharing, and aggregation of content amongst virtual communities and networks. If Snapchat was just a messaging platform, then why does it have a For You feed with videos suggested to kids from anyone on Snapchat? That is a news feed, not a messaging function. If Snapchat was just a messaging platform, then why does it have a Snapchat geolocator where you can see all your friends on a map? See all your friends that are together and you weren't invited, where drug dealers are promoting their virtual drug menus to children near their location. That doesn't sound like a messaging functionality. So this Australian study put out by Snapchat looked into the role that online communication platforms play in relationships and well-being amongst Australian teens and adults. And here's what they found. 78% of Australians feel happy when direct messaging with family and close friends. Approximately 75% of the people surveyed report feeling happy when using messaging apps for communication, more happy than when they're using social media platforms. It was also found that messaging apps are more likely to support emotional health than social media platforms. This study is obviously and embarrassingly a ploy by Snapchat to try to differentiate themselves from other social media platforms. It's like they got in a room and were like, how can we convince everybody that we're not social media, but we actually are? They're doing this because social media is getting huge amounts of bad press, warnings from the US Surgeon General, best-selling books pointing out all the research that social media is bad for kids. And parents are realizing it. They're coming around to it, and they're restricting kids from accessing it. And Snapchat doesn't want any part in that. But Snapchat, you are social media. Everyone knows it, no matter how many billboards you plaster all over the country saying, less social media, more Snapchat. We're not fooled. Okay, enough of Snapchat. Let's talk about TikTok. The stack of lawsuits around TikTok grows higher and higher. TikTok is suing our US government to overturn a law that passed in April. The Department of Justice is suing TikTok for violating child privacy. And now a group of parents have filed a class action lawsuit against TikTok, alleging that TikTok knowingly encouraged children under 13 to create TikTok accounts for the purpose of collecting their intimate data and then using it for advertising and sharing it with third parties. Other concerns pointed out in the lawsuit is that TikTok makes it difficult or impossible for parents to delete their child's accounts. I've heard this many times. What has become very clear through the discovery in these lawsuits is that TikTok continually breaches our laws regarding child privacy, and that there is also a very clear influence from the Chinese Communist Party on the content that our children are seeing on TikTok. You can learn so much more about TikTok in any of my podcast episodes. Go to scrollingtodeath.com/podcast. Type TikTok in the search bar. You'll be shocked at what I've learned recently about TikTok, particularly the connection to the CCP. Next up, school has started in some or most districts, and many are rolling out phone-free policies of varying degrees, my own school included. I'm seeing all kinds of approaches, from loosey-goosey policies where kids cannot use phones in the classroom, but you can use them in the hallways and at lunch, to the most strict bell-to-bell policies where phones are actually locked up in phone lockers or magnetic pouches. A ton of research has been done on the most effective way to keep phones out of kids' hands at school and why it is so important to do so. I won't go into all that detail here, but I have an interview coming soon with one of the founders of the Phone Free Schools movement. Her name is Kim Whitman. So if you are struggling with phone access in your kid's school, or maybe you're a teacher and you want to implement a stricter policy, go to phonefreeschoolsmovement.org. Download their administrator's toolkit. They spent over a year developing the ideal way to restrict phones in school, and I think eventually all schools will get there. It's just going to take time, but I love the momentum here, and I hope we continue to prioritize our children's well-being over their use of tech and our dependence on getting a hold of them. Lastly, a quick update on the Kids Online Safety Act, or KOSA. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be spending a lot of time talking about KOSA, what it is not. I think when I ask parents to support a bill that will protect their kids online, I don't expect you to do it blindly. I want you to understand what you're signing up for and understand the elements of KOSA. So if you pop back over to last week's Big Tech Gut Check from August 12th, I have a detailed breakdown of what KOSA is. I talk about the pushback and the big tech narratives that they're trying to convince us of. And I have an interview dropping tomorrow with legislative expert Patrick Leiden, so you can learn more about KOSA there. And I have another episode coming out next week because I noticed that if you Google KOSA or Kids Online Safety Act, you're going to see a lot of scary and misleading headlines. So my interview next week with another legislative expert, Alex Fraser, is we are going to read the headlines and we are going to react. And this is going to be a really fun way for us to very clearly see the narrative that big tech is trying to push through different media outlets and opinion pieces. And we are going to poke holes like crazy. But for now, what you need to know about this bill. I talk a lot about the harms on social media. I've talked a lot about them in this episode already. One way that we can protect our children from these harms and allow them to access social media safely is by passage of the Kids Online Safety Act. It already passed in the Senate 91-3. We need it to pass through the House of Representatives now. You can support kids' online safety by going to house.gov, put in your zip code, find out who your representative is, message them or call them and ask them to co-sponsor KOSA, to support KOSA, tell them a story, whatever you're feeling. But if you're desperate like me when it comes to social media access and our children and concerned about it, this is one way we can get our kids protected online. That is it for this week on the Big Tech Gut Check here on Scrolling to Death. Thank you for being part of this important and ever-evolving conversation. Let's keep pushing for our kids. They deserve it.